certain appreciation for specifically for watching my critical difficulty. Thank you. Just kidding. This is the real critical book review of Slaughterhouse-Five. In Slaughterhouse-Five, Kurt Vonnegut explains his experiences of World War II bombing of Dresden, Germany. Vonnegut's creative anti-war novel shows the audience the hardships of life of a soldier through his writing technique. Slaughterhouse-Five is written circularly, and time travel is ironically the only consistency throughout the book. Vonnegut's outlines of the life of Billy Pilgrim, whose life and experiences are uncannily similar to those of Vonnegut in Chapter 1. Kurt Vonnegut non-fictionally describes his intentions for writing the book. Vonnegut personally experiences the destruction of Dresden and explains how he continuously tried to document Dresden, but was unsuccessful for 23 years after the war. Vonnegut let the audience know his continued displeasure with his attempts in order to inform them how difficult of a task to complete the novel was. Throughout the novel, Billy Pilgrim was traveling through different moments of his life. He has seen his death as well as his birth, and everything in between. Also, Billy Pilgrim has traveled through the planet Tralfamadore. The audience does not know that if this is true, neither do I, but Billy is convinced it could be a mirage or an illusion. He believes that he was abducted and taken to their planet. The Tralfadorians are very significant in the book because they view time in a completely different way than humans. The aliens see an entire event, not just individual moments like humans, and Tralfadorians have seen the beginning and the end of the universe. They describe this ability to Billy as looking at a stretch of the Rocky Mountains instead of a small pebble of it. Page 34. Kurt Vonnegut served in the armed forces during World War II, and he was captured during the Battle of the Bulge. He and a group of American prisoners of war were taken to Dresden to take part in a prisoner work camp. Vonnegut and his fellow few soldiers were housed in an underground facility when Dresden became history as the most loss of human life at one time. On the night of February 13th, 1945, Dresden was firebombed by the Allied Air Force. The entire city was demolished and 135,000 people were killed. The number of casualties is greater than that of Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined. Yet the Dresden massacre is virtually unheard of. This massacre undoubtedly left a huge impression on Vonnegut and his struggle to live with the horrible fact delayed the production of the book for 23 years. He had wanted to write a book for the time he got home from the war, but his confusion and torment hindered his ability to write about the destruction. All this anguish is what prompted Vonnegut to write his novel, How He Did. However, the background has certainly impacted Slaughterhouse-Five, especially since the novel is a fictional story based on a real event. Vonnegut derives everything he uses from the Dresden bombing, including his writing technique. In the novel, Vonnegut is expressing his anti-war feelings, and he clearly expresses the fact that he does not want to glorify war because it's a treacherous thing. Vonnegut has written 31 novels, and the novels written after his involvement in World War I have consistently been about wars and sent anti-war messages. This has also been said that Vonnegut is a proponent of science fiction. He describes this fact, but it can be seen in many things of his writing, including Slaughterhouse-Five. He has typically used science fiction to characterize the world and the nature of existence as he experiences them. His chaotic fictional universe abounds in wonder, coincidence, randomness, and irrationality. Science fiction is also technically useful, he has said, in providing a distance perspective, moving the camera out into space, as it were. And unusually for this form, Vonnegut science fiction is frequently comic, not just in the black humor mode, which he has been tagged so often, but being simply funny. Excuse me. He's been known to be satire. And a review of Slaughterhouse-Five Life magazine said a funny book at which you are not permitted to laugh, a sad book without tears. In the first chapter, Vonnegut states forthright that there will be no climax. He has situated the book in a fashion that is not chronological. Once again, going back to the fragmented narrative structure. The style makes the reader think there is no plot line and that Vonnegut is freelance writing. However, his work has greatly thought out for 23 years actually. Vonnegut's constant confusion about war and circular thoughts left few options for techniques in which he could tell a story. To portray the story clearly would have been virtually impossible. This organization or assumed lack of thorough by the audience indicates strongly Vonnegut's deep confusion about life and death, and is juggling with ideas over the concept. At some point in the story, Vonnegut changed from third person to first person, indicating that he was among the soldiers when the past Billy and the narrator meet up in Dresden. There is a brief period of personship. The narrator uses us and we simply because Vonnegut is there too. Charles B. Harris, who wrote Time, Uncertainty, and Kurt Vonnegut Jr. A reading of Slaughterhouse-Five explains the person change as this. He too had suffered capture and malnutrition in the devastating firebomb. He worked in the corpse mines and saw friends shot for plundering a teapot from the ruins. Vonnegutt's switch in person once more reinforces with the audience that this is his story of figuring out his confusion, and he wants to reiterate the fact that he was experiencing the same things. Billy Pilgrim was experiencing Vonnegut initially started using first person in the first chapter, but it appears to the audience that his first chapter was written after the novel because it is more of an introduction to literature. Starting in chapter 2, Vonnegut switches to third person because he's indicating the start of his novel, which is fictional and also including things from the novel that didn't happen directly to him. In Slaughterhouse 5, the protagonist, Billy Pilgrim is given a pessimistic point of view from the very start of the book. Billy Pilgrim is described as a funny looking child who became funny looking youth, tall and weak, and shaped like a bottle of Coca Cola, page 30. The most notable part of Vonnegut's character presentation is a lack of it. He's not specific with the description of characters, and neither dramatic or descriptive. They are merely there. This has a larger meaning, however. Vonnegut wants the audience to think that the characters have no will of their own and are led only by fate. The antagonist can be argued as Billy Pilgrim as well. He is essentially against himself in the world. He cannot control his own life because he can't control what part of his life he sees in any given moment. Also, the bombing of Dresden, although not a character, can be a symbolic figure for the antagonist because it has caused so much hardship. Really, a more prominently, Vonnegut. One of the characters, Vonnegut's wife, Valencia Merble. She is described as a walking eating disorder who occasionally summons enough energy to say something stupid. Page 107. Vonnegut uses Valencia to show the unimportance of women in his novel. She even dies in a crazy way. She gets rear-ended and dies from carbon monoxide poisoning. She's portrayed as having absolutely no redeeming qualities other than coming from a family of wealth. Billy makes no critical decisions that he can control. He believes that he has no control over what happens at any given moment. And he starts to believe that life should be good as the stretch of Rocky Mountains instead of the middle of it, as the Chalkendorians do believe. The setting in Slaughterhouse 5 is all over too. The story goes from Germany to his home to Schaffendor and to his birth. The story mainly takes place in Germany, where he is experiencing the life of a soldier. It is set to the 20th century and intertwines different time periods. The story could take place anywhere, however, because to Vonnegut, descriptions aren't the important thing. There's a deeper meaning. The random reoccurrences of past memories cannot ever erase the fact that Billy experienced the fire bombings of Dresden. Vonnegut uses his tone and style to persuade the audience that the world it was creating was real. He realizes that he cannot be confusing, and he surprisingly uses unemotional languages, even throughout the subject he's writing on is an extremely emotional one. His sentences are rather short, but they get the point across. He uses a lot of short paragraphs in the novel. This represents a choppy style of the book, since Billy is constantly traveling from time to time. Vonnegut's tone is somewhat satirical, and he undetermines war and discounts all accounts that war stories. He lays down the severe truth about the war he experienced and devastation and destruction it caused. The diction of Vonnegut says this. It stays the same throughout the narrative sections of the novel, and the diction of the individual is prone to the individual character. He utilizes different characters to keep the direction and interesting and varied. The diction interesting and varied. Vonnegut's entire purpose in writing this novel was to release the feelings that he had bottled up inside for 23 long years. He wants others to know what happened to him, and he wanted to remove himself from a situation like Billy Pilgrim. He wrote every agonizing word about the experience that he never wants to live through or see happen again. He wanted people to know that a man was killed for stealing a teapot. He wanted people to know that a city of 135,000 people can be completely obliterated in the name of war. He wanted people to know that mental scars that the war can carry, and that he was trying to say is that it hurt. It hurt him inside, and war hurt Vonnegut enough to write this novel. He wants people to know the atrocity of war and that it should never happen again. The last words in the book are pooty-weets, page 275, and a bird speaks those words. The jabbering bird symbolizes the lack of anything intelligent to say about war. Earlier in the book, page 24, Vonnegut explains, quote, there is nothing intelligent to say about a massacre. Everybody's supposed to be dead to never say anything or want anything ever again. Everything is supposed to be very quiet after a massacre, and it is always is, except for the birds poo to you weeds. Seems about as appropriate a thing to say as any, since no words can really describe the horror of the Dresden bombing. The birds sing outside Billy's hospital window. In the last line of the book, asking a question which Billy Vonnegut or the audience has no answer to. Another symbol is the color blue and ivory. Billy's hands and feet are always blue and ivory, and this symbolizes the thin membrane between life and death. Also, crying is the one thing that is constant in Billy's life. He cried no matter what time period it is and provides the only consistency. It took Kurt Vonnegut 23 years to put all his films on paper. Slaughterhouse Five is an important novel because it's not only just a novel, it also dabbles in nonfiction. I got a lot of meaning from Vonnegut's words, and in the last chapter, Vonnegut he leaves the audience with these brief paragraphs that push for peace. Robert Kennedy, whose summer home is 8 miles away from the home I live in all year round, was shot 2 nights ago. He died. He died last night. So it goes. MLK was shot a month ago. He died too. So it goes. Every day, my government gives me a count of corpses created by the military service in Vietnam. So it goes. My father died many years ago now of natural causes. So it goes. He was a sweet man. He was a gun nut too. He left me his guts. They rest. They rest. Vonnegut's push for peace is not unheard of as a novel, and he portrays his personal destruction throughout Billy's Pilgrim character. The firebombing of Dresden not only killed thousands of people, but also killed the souls of those that had survived. The only way he could convince himself that the death wasn't tragic is by inventing child Midorians. Sorry if I was talking fast. This is like trial number like 17.